You might have seen, more likely heard, my kids running around earlier this evening at dinner time. Those are my two kids. My wife, Katie, she was serving food. Yeah. Tonight is going to be, it's going to be good. I'm pretty excited about it. But I do have to maybe give you a little heads up. So tonight, one of the things that we're going to talk about is Satan's strategy against God's people. And so because we're talking about that, I know this from experience and from the Word. Anytime you share something that exposes Satan, he doesn't like it. So don't be surprised if while I'm speaking or even after something happens that might kind of, what's the word? Something might kind of come in that would try and frustrate the speaking. So you need to pray for yourself, that the Lord would cover you, and that what is spoken would not be twisted by Satan. Okay? All right. So, we're talking about Daniel. We're still in Daniel. We're going to be in Daniel the whole semester, actually. And I don't know if you... Okay, so when I was at CSU, I studied history, which is excellent. No one has said anything, but it's great. Someone studied history in here, right? Where's Dallas? I need Dallas. Anyways, if you like history, like a little bit, raise your hand.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay. So we're going to start with a little bit of historical context for what's going on, and then we'll dive into the book of Daniel. So let's see. Okay, so when you study history, one thing that's very helpful is being able to, one of the things you study is you study an individual or a country or group, you study their intent, what their intention is or what their goal is, what they're trying to accomplish. If you can figure that out, usually you have a pretty good idea of why things happened, why an event happened. So tonight, one of the first part of what we're going to do is we're going to look at the king of Babylon and his intention or what he was trying to accomplish in his attack against God's people. And then we're going to fast forward to the New Testament and we're going to see how that applies to us. Okay? That's the roadmap. You ready? So let me ask you a question. Who knows is in the book of Daniel, it starts out with God's people being taken captive. Does anybody know if that's mentioned anywhere else in the Bible? And if so, where? This is a hard question. Bossy? Which books? Oh, yeah, Jeremiah. That's right. Yeah, it's in Jeremiah. Anybody else want to guess? I don't think it's in Lamentations, but it's a good guess. It might be. What'd you say? Nehemiah is after, but you're on the right track. Ezekiel? Okay, yeah, you guys are good. Okay, well, tonight, we're going to start with 2 Kings. Who loves 2 Kings?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I thought. So, I'm with you, JC. You kind of have to have an appreciation for 2 Kings. But so if you have your Bible, take it out. If you don't, it's okay, because I have the verse on the sheet. But if you have the Bible, take it out. We're going to look at 2 Kings chapter 25, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read some verses to you or some sections of verses to you, and then I'm going to comment on it, okay? So do you have your sheet? Everyone have your sheet? Okay, so follow along, 2 Kings 25. I'll read the first 3 verses to you to start with, and then we'll go from there, okay? Everyone good? All right. So, verse 1. In the 9th year of his reign, in the 10th month, on the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came, he and his whole army against Jerusalem, and encamped against it, and they built a siege wall against it all around. So the city came under siege until the 11th year of King Zedekiah. On the 9th day of the 4th month, the famine was so severe within the city that there was no food for the people of the land. Okay, so I just read the first 3 verses, but they're kind of summarized in your sheet. Basically, this is what happens. This is what I do with my kids. I read them, and I tell them this story. Okay? So pretend like you're my kids. So Nebuchadnezzar comes to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is God's city, right? That's where God's house is. So Jerusalem is very important. He comes to Jerusalem, and what does he do? He and his whole army, they encamp against it, and they build a siege against it. Anyone know what that means? That basically means they surround it, okay? They build a siege wall all around it. So this technique in ancient warfare, if you know anything about ancient warfare, which maybe you do, if you played old video games, you would know what I'm talking about. But anyways, in ancient warfare, there's something called a siege attack, which is when you surround a city and starve it. You surround a city and you cut them off to every resource outside the city, and you just starve them out. That's what Nebuchadnezzar did. He surrounded the city, and he starved them. How do we know that? Because in verse 3, it says, famine was so severe. There's no food left, okay? Then, let's fast forward to verse 7. Okay, I'm going to give you a forewarning. The beginning gets a little bit intense. Just going to give you the heads up. But this is the word of God, and we're going to read it. Okay? Okay, verse 7. And they slaughtered Zedekiah's sons before his eyes, then put out Zedekiah's eyes and bound him with bronze fetters and brought him to Babylon. It's intense. Yeah, that's right. So Zedekiah is the king, right? He takes him, he kills his sons in front of him, he takes his eyes out and takes him to Babylon. Then, verses 9 and 10, he burned the house of Jehovah. The house of Jehovah is the house of God, or the temple, where they worship. He burns the house of Jehovah and the king's house and all the houses of Jerusalem, and every large house he burned with fire, or broke down the walls around Jerusalem. So he kills the king, or kills the king's sons, burns all the houses, burns God's house, burns the king's house, and breaks the walls down. The wall in ancient times of a city was crucial for their defenses. If you break the wall down, the city's got no defense. Okay? Then in 13, he broke down the bronze pillars and carried the bronze to Babylon. So 13 to the end, there's a particular attack against God's house. All right? Is everyone doing okay? Okay. And then, okay, I'll go 14. Excuse me. And they took away the pots and the shovels and the snuffers and the cups and all the bronze vessels with which they ministered, and its gold and its silver. Okay, so what they did was they took all the items that were used in the worship of God, in God's house, they removed them all, and they took them back to Babylon. Then the captain, who's the captain of the Babylonian army, he took, I don't know how you pronounce that. Anyone give that a shot, that word? In verse 18, the guy's name? Sariah? That's what I was thinking, yeah. That sounds good. Let's stick with that. Sariah, okay. The chief priest and the second priest and the 3 doorkeepers. And from the city they took the overseer of the men of war, men from the king's inner circle, and brought them to the king of Babylon. And the king of Babylon struck them down and put them to death. So Judah was carried away into exile out of its land. Okay, so that's what's going on. King Nebuchadnezzar basically surrounds the city, starves the city, burns all the houses, takes all of the vessels of God's house out of God's house, then takes the people who would carry out the worship of God, who's the priests, and kills them, then kills the overseer of the men of war and the men of the king's inner circle. So basically, who's left? Nobody's left. Yeah, Daniel's, yeah, we'll get there. Yeah, Nas is jumping the gun. It's okay. So you see this attack from King Nebuchadnezzar. I would call this a direct attack against God's people. Wouldn't you agree? I don't know if it gets any more direct than this. His intent, so let's get back to that question. What's his intent? His intent is to wipe out God's people and to stop the worship of God. Very clear. He's trying to wipe them out and stop them from worshiping God, okay? So now let's go to Daniel. You guys doing okay? Yeah, let's go to Daniel. Okay. So let me just read. I'll just keep reading. Okay. So before I read, I'll make one comment so we're not confused, okay? In Daniel chapter 1, there's a different king, but it's the same people, just so you know. It's like kind of like the order of things is a little confusing. Daniel starts before 2 Kings 25. Does that make sense? Anyways, just so you know. Okay, let me make one more comment, sorry. The siege, because to me it's like so interesting, because I don't know what you guys think about this, but when I think like, in modern times, if I think about sieging a city or destroying a city, I think like we're just going to drop bombs, it's going to be over, you know? When I say we, I mean like, you know, whoever that is going to drop bombs, not me or whatever. But this siege took at least 2.5 years to break. So just imagine 2.5 years, the enemy outside your city just berating you. That's kind of what happened. Okay, so, all right, ready for verse 1? Okay. In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. And the Lord gave Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, into his hand with some of the vessels of the house of God. And he brought them into the land of Shinar. Okay, Shinar is just Babylon, okay? To the house of his God, and he brought the vessels into the treasury of his God. So basically, verses 1 through 3 kind of summarizes what we just talked about in 2 Kings 25, right? So he comes in, he sieges it, and he takes the vessels from the house of God and brings them into the house of his God. Okay, I was thinking about this. It's interesting. I thought at first Nebuchadnezzar took the things from God's house, the vessels from God's house, because he wanted them because they were like, you know, their gold and silver and their bronze and their kind of precious metal. So I thought he was just taking them because he wanted the metal. He wanted like kind of the precious metal. But he puts them in the house of his God. So clearly, there's an attack against the worship of God. Trying to take, and you have to pay attention, he takes the vessels. Vessels are a very key word in the New Testament, which I don't have time to get into, but I'll just tell you this. This is what I tell my kids. I'm telling you, you are a vessel. Because you're a vessel, when you see the word vessel in the New Testament or Old Testament, just in your head think, that's me. So he's taking God's people and taking them out of God's house and putting them into his house. Okay? Now, verse 3. It says, Then the king told Ashpenaz, the chief of the eunuchs, to bring some of the sons of Israel, including some from the royal seed and from the nobility, children in whom was no defect, who were good in appearance, who showed insight in all wisdom, understanding and knowledge, and apprehension and thought, and in whom was the ability to stand in the king's palace. And he told him to teach them the learning and language of the Chaldeans. Okay. So verse 3 and 4, Nebuchadnezzar tells his chief of the eunuchs to basically pick out of the children those who are promising. Pick out the ones who are of a royal seed, which means they're descendants of King David, their nobility, the ones who have some kind of apprehension, right? Is that what it says? Sorry, I lost my spot. Insight and wisdom, understanding and knowledge. He tells him to pick out the ones who have a bright future. Okay? Now, I'm going to give you a little more historical context, okay? How old do you think they were when they were taken from Babylon? Remember, it calls them children. How old do you think they were? Anyone guess? Okay, well, they weren't that young, but that's a good guess. Isaiah? 20? It's a good guess. Mitchell? 12. Okay, yeah, you guys are kind of all around. Okay, what scholars think the best guess they can give is between the ages of 14 and 17. So we're talking high schoolers, younger than you guys. So I don't know what you think about this, but the more I've been considering this, you realize there's something significant about young people. And I would say specifically people who are your age and younger. Maybe we can cut off, well, I don't know if we cut off anywhere, but if we, for this example, Mitchell, how old are you again? Never mind. We'll say we'll say 30. We'll cut off at 30, okay? But I'd really honestly tell you, high school and college age is the target. And I want to make this point. If you study the Bible carefully, you'll see every time God does something significant, he does not go to old people. That's just a fact. He only goes to young people. Okay, you know how old the disciples were when they were called? Anybody know? They were the assumption is that John, the Apostle John, was probably 17. And Peter was the oldest. He was in his 20s because Peter was married. But they were between their 20s and 17. They were young. They were young people. They were your age. Do you know why God called them? Why did God not go and call the Pharisees who were old? Assuming they would follow him. That's a big assumption. But assuming they followed him, why didn't he call them? What was it? Go ahead, Cadence, tell us. Exactly. Exactly. Because, and I'm speaking this, hoping this is not my experience, but it might be at some point in time. The older you get, the more set in your ways you are. Right? You can agree. It's okay. I'm not that much older than you, so just so we're clear. But we all know someone who's older than us who's just set in their ways. Right? So God's going to do something, he needs young people who are not set in their ways, who can actually receive something from him and do it, right? Okay. So if God wants those people, who else do you think wants those people? Satan. In this case, who is it? Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. He's like, I want them. Okay? So what is this? So he's targeting these kids, right? And he's not just targeting them, he's teaching them, right? What does it say? He's teaching them the learning and the language of the Chaldeans. Chaldeans are Babylonians. Okay, let's put a little more context into this. Imagine you're in Daniel's shoes, and you are, basically your homeland is destroyed, nothing left, and then Nebuchadnezzar shows up, takes you to his house and says, hey, I'll get to it in a little bit. There's a verse about what they feed them, which I'm not going to talk about, but I'll just mention it. He says, I'll teach you the language. I'll teach you all of the things that we know. And a little more context here. Sorry, let me just add this. Sorry, it's just necessary historically to understand this. Basically, Babylon was the world power in the world at the time. So Babylon at the time was what you would consider the singular world power. Babylon was everything. Okay, so to be brought to Babylon means you're brought to the capital of the world. And then you're offered all these things. Okay, it's not a bad deal, right? I mean, I think if, I'll make a comparison, but I'm not comparing them as if they're the same. It's just an example, okay? Let's compare Babylon to Harvard. I'm not saying Harvard's Babylon, but let's just pretend for a minute. If you're given, like, hey, come to Harvard, we'll teach you all the things of the Harvard people, we'll teach you all the language of the Harvard people, and you just got to come and be with us and eat our food and hang out with us. What would you say? Good answer, Cadence. Because we're Rams. Just kidding. No, that's not what you'd say. No, but understand the temptation's there, right? Like, you're basically offered the best position you can get, and you're a kid, you know? So, where am I? Okay, so yes, teaching them the language, all that stuff. Okay, then in verse 5 it says, the king appointed to them a daily portion from the king's choice provision, and from the wine that he drank. And he appointed that they should be brought up for 3 years, so at the end of the time they might stand before the king. Okay, that verse will be covered next week, so I'm not going to touch it. Verse 6, now among these from the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Okay. I want to make a comment. Yeah, I want to make a comment. Who, growing up, heard or, and I'm not saying, you can answer, I don't have a problem with it, I'm just curious. Who, growing up, watched VeggieTales as a kid? Okay. When you watched VeggieTales, what did they call Daniel's friends? You guys remember? Anybody? Mitchell? There we go. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Does that sound familiar to you guys now? Okay, I'm not knocking VeggieTales. Okay, my kids listen to the VeggieTales podcast, which I don't know if you knew they had one, but they have a VeggieTales podcast in case you're curious. But Mitchell, what does that verse say though? What does verse 7 say? Or not verse 7, sorry, verse 6.
It says, now among these, the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah,
Okay, so there's two sets of names. Now, let's look at verse 7, okay? It says, I'll read this one to you because these names are kind of hard to pronounce. Well, actually, Mitchell just did it, so it's not that hard. Actually, Mitchell, you want to do it? Why don't you read verse 7?
Okay.
Sorry.
And the leader of the eunuchs gave them names. He gave Daniel the name Belteshazzar, Hananiah the name Shadrach, Mishael the name Meshach, and Azariah the name Abednego.
Okay, so he changes their language, he changes their diet, he changes their learning, and he changes their name. Okay? What do you think he is? What do you think the intention of this, I would call, second attack is? It's a word that you probably have heard. Dom, you got something?
Change their identity.
Change your identity. What's another word for that? Yeah, I guess manipulation is a word for it. Maybe I'll just tell you since I'm looking for a specific word. This attack, so the first attack was a direct assault, right? Direct attack. This attack is called assimilation. What is assimilation? Anyone give me a definition? Isaiah?
You sort of like you adopt the identity and the culture, the language of another group of people to fit in.
That's right, exactly. Very good. You adopt the language, the identity, the culture of another group of people so you can fit in, right? So King Nebuchadnezzar's attack is to assimilate them into Babylonian culture, okay? So don't flip your sheet over. I know you're going to when I said it, but try to resist the urge. I forgot I had slides. I totally forgot I had slides. Okay, so we've covered that. Okay, so I'm going to cover their names, but I need to say something about names before I cover this, and I'll say more about it. But names are significant, okay? Not just in our current society, or not just in the U.S. Maybe names are not as important as other places, but names in the Bible are very significant. If you have a significant name as a person, you know that, right? Who has a significant name in here? Okay, good. Yeah, Alicia for sure. Awesome. Okay, yeah. So let me ask you, those who have significant names, you were told as a child what your name means, right? And who you're named after? So it means something to you, right? What if someone tried to take that name from you and give you a different name? What they're doing is eliminating if it's a family name, eliminating your family history. If it's a biblical name, it's eliminating your faith. It's a very direct attack. So Daniel's name, anyone know what Daniel's name is without looking at your sheet? Oh, I guess, almost, guys. Anybody got it? Anybody? Daniel. Dom?
Be a wild guess, but God is my judge.
Very good. That was a wild guess. That was on the dot. Did you look at the sheet, Dom? Just kidding. Okay. So Daniel's name is, okay, here we go. Check this cool little thing out. Daniel is God is my judge. Anybody know what his Belshazzar means? It's on your sheet. You can tell me now. Prince of Bel. Anybody know what that is? Bel was a Babylonian pagan god. So the prince of a Babylonian pagan god. Okay? Who's the next one? Hananiah. Oop, I gave it to you. Sorry. Okay. Hananiah means God, or Jah, which is short for Jehovah, has graciously given. That's Hananiah. What is the Babylonian name he was given? Shadrach, enlightened by the sun god. Who is that in reference to? This is highlighting another pagan god. Okay? Next one. Mishael. I like this one a lot. And we'll make the side note here, just a little detail. I don't know if you know this. You probably don't know this. Katie and I are expecting another baby. Just a little side note. We're having a girl in June, end of June. Tell Katie that I knew the date. Anyways, end of June, we're having a baby. We're having a girl, otherwise these names are great. Anyways, okay. So Mishael, who is what God is. What a great name, right? Okay. Okay, what that means is who is like God is. What it means, it's not, or who is what God is. It means that person is not what God is, but that person endeavors to be what God is. That make sense? Okay. Meshach, who can be like the god Eshach? Again, another pagan god. Okay? Azariah, God has helped. Another great name. Want to know a bad name? This one. Abednego, faithful servant of the fire god Nego. Okay, so what happens is this. Nebuchadnezzar is trying to change their names from a name that honors God to a name that is involved with idolatry. Okay? Your name is significant because, again, those with significant names know, your name kind of, it designates you, right? It tells you who you are and where you come from. And it might even tell you where you're going, right? I think I can do it now that JC's back. Hey, JC, I'm going to call you out. What is Levi's name? What's his full name?
Levi Abraham Emmanuel Castillo.
Good last name. So why did you name him that, JC? I guess I could ask Rosalind too. She's right here, but you're sorry, Rosalind. I already asked JC if I could ask him. Yeah. Go ahead.
Because as the Levites, I wanted him to serve the house of God all his days. And as Abraham's the father of faith, that he would know his real father in his real father of the faith. And Emmanuel, which is God with us. God kind of comes with God's people, and he just added one more of God's people for a family.
That's right.
Yeah.
Amen. It's awesome. So my point in bringing that up is, and Levi's very cute, obviously. My point in bringing that up is when your name, or whenever this is a side point, but whenever you get the opportunity, if the Lord gives you that opportunity to name a child, you really have to pray, because their name has a big impact on the way they think about themselves. Okay. I named, as you saw, my son. We named our son Benjamin, which, anybody know what Benjamin means? Yeah, close. It means son of the right hand. So Benji will tell you. Actually, I tried to get him to take. I tried to take a video of him today to do it, but he didn't want to do the video. But anyways, he knows his name is son of the right hand. Anybody else know what Benjamin is referenced in Genesis? This is kind of obscure. In Genesis 49, there's all the tribes are given. Oh, you got it, Bossy? Ravenous wolf, bro. Good job. Okay, so all the tribes are given different kind of blessings, and Benjamin, the tribe of Benjamin, is blessed. He's a ravenous wolf who will tear the enemy to pieces. So if you ask Benji what his name means, he will tell you, son of the right hand, and I'm a ravenous wolf. I mean, it's pretty epic for a 5-year-old little boy, you know? Anyways, he loves it. But the point is this, we didn't give him a name so he'd have a cool name. We gave him a name because it's significant to us. It's significant in his trajectory of his spiritual life. Okay. Where am I on this thing? Okay. So maybe, can I make one more comment on this? I think this is important. Sorry, I'm just going to roll. Okay, so listen. Remember when the siege is happening, that back to Babylon, they're wrecking the city, and they take the kids away. Think about this. Okay, this is an assumption, but I think it's a safe assumption. Okay, so Daniel, remember, he was of a noble seed, nobility, and of the royal seed, so he was important. His family was important. It's likely that Daniel's parents were killed. If you think about it, all the adults were killed, basically. So probably Daniel's parents were killed too. And if the siege took 2.5 years, give or take, when he was taken, he was probably, and if he was, let's say he was 17, he was probably taken when he was what? I can't do math, especially in front of people. 14? Someone confirm that. Let's just say 14, okay? 15, I don't know, whatever. So he was taken at a very young age, okay? What do you think kept Daniel? I think one of the things was his name. Because he knows God is my judge. That he knows my name means God is my judge. You'll see, we're not going to get into it, but you'll see in verse 8, actually we might get into it. It says Daniel set his heart not to be defiled. Why would a 17-year-old set his heart not to be defiled, not to eat what the king gives him, not to indulge? You guys were 17 once. You know what it's like. Someone like offers something to you, you're like, yes, sir. You're like ready. At least maybe we're different. But anyways, he deliberately didn't partake of things, and we'll cover that next week. Why is the case? I'm not going to spoil it, but next week you'll see. But he had to have realized, Nebuchadnezzar, you are not my judge. God is my judge. And I would just tell you this to you as well, as believers. Who is your judge? Are your friends your judge? Is your professor your judge? Really consider, is God your judge? Is he the one you respond to? Is he the one who you're like, yes, God is my judge. If this happens or doesn't happen, who is my judge? So we need to have the name Daniel, even if it's not our actual name. As a side note, Hannah, my sweet daughter, her middle name is Danielle. Where do you think I got that from? Okay, anyways, that's another story. Okay, all right, so we're ready to keep going? You guys with me? Doing okay? Well, that's kind of small. Okay, it's okay. Okay, I just want to make a comment on this. In today's world, where we are today, when you look at the Old Testament, it's easy to kind of like, on one hand, relegate it to kind of an Old Testament thing that happened in the past. This is kind of something that doesn't affect us. In fact, I don't know if I could mention this. Maybe I'll mention it. I hope it's okay. We had a Bible study on Daniel last semester. Epic. Whoever was there, they know. It was great. Okay, but at one point in time in our Bible study, we were getting into, we were getting into some prophecies, or I don't know, I'm looking at Alicia because she was there, but we were getting into something, and it was kind of like seemed random, right? And we were like, why is this, what is the point of this? Remember this? Like, why is this, why are we in, what is the point, how does this have relevance to us? Eventually we found it, I think, we got to it, right? But the point is this, the Old Testament is relevant today, especially the book of Daniel. Because you could look at the book of Daniel from a New Testament perspective, or with spiritual eyes, you actually see King Nebuchadnezzar represents Satan. Because there's God's kingdom, which is getting destroyed, and there's his enemy's kingdom, who's doing the destroying, which represents Satan. Okay? So, Satan is the king of Babylon today, modern king of Babylon, you could say. And I feel like an important part of this sharing tonight is this realization in 2 Corinthians 2:11. Maybe we can read this one all together. Ready, set, go. Okay. Remember how I said in the beginning, we're going to expose Satan? We're not ignorant of his schemes. Okay? If you're ignorant of someone's schemes, they got you, right? So this is for your spiritual education, for your learning. So you are not taken advantage of by Satan, right? Okay. I think I should keep going from this point. I'm not. Let me cover one thing. Sorry. One thing real quick. John 10:10. I'll just read it to you. This is Satan's job description. You ready for it? The thief does not come except to steal and kill and destroy. That's what Satan's job is. So never think that Satan is your friend. Never think. This is his job description. This is what he's trying to do. Whether a direct attack or through subtle assimilation. Okay. And why? Because he's crafty. Okay, well, we're not going to talk about that now. So here, this is where it gets real. I feel like I need to go fast. Are you guys doing okay? Is everyone paying attention? Is everyone like, no one's falling asleep? Okay. If you need to stand up, then you can stand up. All right, so here's the thing. I love this verse. This is a little gem I found in Proverbs. It says, a good name is to be chosen rather than great riches. Now, when I first started getting into this, I don't know if I agreed with that, but now I fully agree with that. So I just want to share with you, what is your name? Who are you? And the reason why I bring that up is because, especially, remember how we talked about in the beginning that God and Satan are both focused on young people? You're the target. I'm not the target. Although I'm not old, but I'm not the target, right? Lamar's not the target. Lamar's not old either. Sorry, Lamar. He's just standing there. But you're the target. Do you realize this? I'm very confident in my identity. Lamar, are you confident in your identity? 100%. So that doesn't work on us, right? Now, you don't have to answer this, but are you confident in your identity? Are you confident in your Christian identity? Okay? I don't know how much I need to get into this, but I will tell you this. You have to realize with conviction that you are a Christian. And that is unchangeable. That is who you are. Okay? Okay, let's do this. Everyone, just so we're all confident, let's all say, I am a Christian. But hold on. Say it with boldness like you believe it. Okay? Ready, set, go.
I am a Christian.
Okay, that was a little weak. Let's do it one more time.
I am a Christian.
How'd that feel? Okay, now let's try another one. Let's say, I am a child of God. Go.
I am a child of God.
Isn't that great? Don't you feel a little inwardly, there's some warm and fuzzies, you know what I mean? It feels good because why? It's a fact. You're declaring a fact to the universe that you are a child of God and that you are a Christian. Okay, so I'm going to go to the next slide and come back to the slide, okay? Is everyone okay with that? All right. Oh, no, just kidding. Next slide. Then we'll come back. Okay. So I want to make this point to you. Actually, sorry. No, we'll come back to this. Sorry. Okay. It's okay. All right. I'm going to read to you 2 Timothy 1:12, okay? For which cause also I suffer these things, but I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed, and I am persuaded that he is able to guard my deposit unto that day. Okay. I love this verse because Paul says, I know whom I have believed. He doesn't say, I know what I believe. Okay, I want to make this very clear. As Christians, we don't merely follow the teachings of Christ. Okay? Does that make sense? We follow Christ himself. Paul doesn't say, I know what I believe. He says, I know whom I have believed. Okay? There's a Bible that I recommend you never get. I don't own one. You shouldn't either. It's called the Jeffersonian Bible. Has anyone heard of that before? Thomas Jefferson was a third president of the United States. He took the Bible, and you know what he did? He took out all the parts he didn't like. He took out the parts related to Christ's virgin birth, the miracles. Only thing he kept were the teachings of Christ. He took out everything related to his deity and his person. It's possible, as believers, we unintentionally do the same thing. Be careful. Yes, the teachings of Christ are wonderful, but don't miss Christ in the teachings of Christ. We have to follow the person, not just the teachings. Okay? We know whom we have believed. Now let me ask you a question. Do you know who you believe? Are you confident, say, to just be like Paul, I am not ashamed, for I know whom I have believed. Okay, if you know whom you have believed, there's an inward sense, yes. And I believe we all do. Okay, I'm not trying to sow doubt at all, by any means. We all know who we believe, right? Okay, let's say, I believe Jesus. Ready, go.
I believe Jesus.
Okay, he's the one whom we have believed. But it might be possible that your belief in him or your following him might fluctuate. Is that your experience a little bit? Like, you're like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian right now, 100%. But earlier today, maybe I was, maybe not, you know? Okay, now let me clarify that. You're never not, once you're saved eternally. You're never not a Christian, okay? Just so we're clear. That is who we are in our nature. That's our identity. Our condition can fluctuate, right? We can change in our condition, like you're healthy and you're sick and all that stuff, just like human life. But you're still a human, right? You're still a person, even though you might get sick or whatever. Okay, so this is the point I want to make. I believe we all know the Lord to some extent and love him to some extent. But I have a feeling our knowing of him can be improved a little bit. Don't you think? Do you feel like, I know everything about the Lord I can know. Okay, good. If you do feel that way, you definitely don't. I'll just say that right now. In case you thought that in your head, you don't. And I don't say that in a bad way. I say that in a way of, I would like to open to you a gold mine of who God is. Okay? And so let me just finish with this because I really have to be done. Okay. Oh, wow. My goodness. Okay, I have to be done. There's 3 things. Can you write these down? Do you have space in your paper? Okay. There's 3 things you can do to increase your knowing of him, which will increase your confidence and your conviction in who you are as a Christian, okay? The first thing, I'm going to give you a little tip. They're not profound, okay? But they're true. The first one is this. Read his word. Right, JC?
Amen.
You read the Bible, you learn who he is, okay? That's number 1. Number 2, spend time with him. Spend time with the Lord. And number 3, this is a real helpful one. Ask him, who are you, Lord? Ask him. And I'll give you a hint. You can do all 3 together. You can read the word in his presence while asking him who he is, okay? So if you do that, your knowing of him will increase. And we talked about this in the Bible study on Wednesday. My Wednesday Bible study, people know what I'm talking about. There's 2 kinds of witnesses, right? Who was there? Who remembers? Max, you got it? One who testifies. Well, they both testify, but yeah. Do you want me to give you a hint? That's right. Very good. Okay. So we talked about this in our Bible study. There's 2 kinds of witnesses in court. There's an eyewitness and an expert witness. Okay. Eyewitness is someone who sees the event. An expert witness is someone who knows the topic, right? We need to be both as believers. We need to be an eyewitness. We need to know Christ personally. Meaning that no matter what someone tells you, you know who he is. You know the reason why I wanted you to open your Bible and read along with me? It's because I want you to read the Bible for yourself so you know what it says. Like that. Okay, sorry, I don't want to belabor this, but think about this. When I was a kid, I thought it was Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. But those are Babylonian names. How, just think about that. How, I'm not saying that God is insulted by this, but if I was them, I'd be very insulted if God's people in the future called me by my Babylonian name. Right? So we need to know what the Bible says for ourselves so we don't call people Babylonian names. You know what I'm saying? That's an example. Okay, so we need to know the word. We need to spend time in God's presence, and we need to ask him who he is. Okay, last verse. Ready? Then I'm done for real. Oh, man. 1 Peter 4:16. Let's read all together. Ready, set, go.
But as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in his name.
Okay, this is a verse I want you to memorize or consider memorizing. Really dwell on this verse. If as a Christian, never forget you're a Christian. This is who you are. Let him not be ashamed. It's very possible for us to be ashamed that we're Christians, right? And it's okay. We all fall into that. And I'm not condemning or blaming by any means because we're all in the same boat. But glorify him in that name. And so I would just encourage you, wherever you are in your Christian journey, wherever you are in your walk with the Lord, there's always room to know him better, to love him more, and to be clear who you belong to. Because a Christian means you're a follower of Christ. It also means you're in his family. You belong to him. Because he bought you with a price. We're not going to talk about that. I have to be done. Are we clear? Are we? Does that feel good? Do we feel like we're Christians and we love the Lord and we know who we are and Satan is not going to change our identity? Okay?
Yeah.
There we go. Okay. I think I'm done. I'm going to give you announcements.